Hey, it's Jim here from the Moose Basin shop at the Moose Basin Bed and Breakfast here in Kapuskasing, and I am just making a little video here to address how I go about scouting out a lake that I want to fish, especially a new lake, because I've been getting a lot of questions from clients and out-of-towners and that don't know the Kapuskasing area that well, and they're looking for spots. So what I figured the best thing I can do, instead of just saying try this lake, try here, try there, which has been relatively effective thus far this year, but I would rather pass on what I look for in lakes, so then instead of everyone having to ask questions and that, they can have that knowledge in their back pocket and already have things scouted out a little bit and maybe be able to fine-tune their questions when they get there, because every little bit of knowledge helps, and I find I have good success in scouting out new lakes and finding where the fish are in general. So I figured I'd make this video to let any angler anywhere know the process, or close to the process, that I go through when looking at a new lake or just wanting to refresh my memory on some things. And to do this video, I am going to create a hypothetical situation and go through my process as if I were looking to fish Allen and Zadie Lake in the tin boat that comes with the cabin I have on Allen Lake. So I'm kind of doing this through the eyes of a prospective renter of the Allen Lake cabin, and trying to do it as though I were going to Allen Lake for the first time to stay at my camp, and I was using the boat being provided, and I'm going to address this video in that manner. But I will also try to explain along the way that whether I'm kayak fishing, shore fishing, or the kind of vehicle I'm in, it changes the way I scout things, because obviously with the tin boat here, I can cover a decent amount of ground, so I'm scouting a larger area. I'm always scouting based on the area I think I'm going to cover from the spots that I'll be able to launch from or fish from, given how I'm going to be fishing that particular body of water. So again, for this example, I'm kind of putting myself in a guest's shoes as if I'm coming up to Allen Lake to fish for the first time. So the first thing I am going to do is I'm going to actually click on Google Maps. And the first thing I'm looking for is any man-made structure around. And zoom in, I see a couple properties, but not too many docks. So there's not too much man-made structure sticking out. There's a dam down there that I can see that's man-made, but in terms of man-made structure within this service area, or within this lake area, there's not that much. I see that's the launching area. So there's not much man-made structure to fish around on the shorelines or anywhere in the lake. And I can also see from Google, you can get a brief outline of the area. You can see a river runs up into the lake. You can see a lot of connecting creeks that go into the river. You can see the creeks that run into the lake. And that there's a variety of spots where creeks and little feeder lakes run into the main lake area. And so I'm looking on Google before I start even thinking about depths and that. I'm looking at where other body waters connect to the lake I'm fishing in question. I'm also looking for obvious pinch points and obvious natural structure. So if the river comes in this way and flows that way towards this dam, I know there's got to be a change in current somewhere around there to get going through that. And I know that this here, that's the pinch point. The water gets condensed in there. So that's also typically something I look for. And in addition to pinch points, we have a peninsula there. Like, this is all natural structure that affects the way the fish move around and affects the way the fish relate to what's going on in the lake. You have an island here, but based on local knowledge, Google must have flown over top of this when we're at a high water point, because typically in the summer that is actually a little point that sticks out there and a rocky point out to that rock there. So again, no matter how much scouting you do, things might be different when you get on the lake, which is why it's important to always be aware of where you're boating on the lake and that, and make sure you're conducting yourself responsibly. But within this pinch point, you can also use Google to find natural structure. Like, you can see that island there. You can see there's a rock there, rock there, rock there. So you can see some of the natural structure that's sticking out around the lake that's providing, again, the fish something to relate to in that. And another thing I look for that you can pick up just on Google, you don't even need a charting program in that, but you can also look for bends in the river, pools, and rapids. Right now on Allen Lake, there's no real rapids or pooling going on. But if you see, that is one thing that I look for, is if there is a set of rapids and a little pool at the bottom of the rapids, I will always put that on my list of things to look for, especially on a river system up here, because they tend to be generally productive. Lots of nutrients get stirred up and lots of oxygenated water going in, and fish like to relate to where there's food and oxygenated water. And sometimes what Google will also show you, not so much now, I think, because this was obviously taken during the springtime and high water, but on many lakes, I'm sure you've noticed if you've been on Google before, sometimes you'll be able to see the weed lines that are going around the lake. You can't in this particular instance, but that is another thing you can look for. And another thing Google will tell you is what kind of water you're dealing with. Because as you can see here, Allen Lake, it is dark water, but it's not chocolate milky water. Like, it's just dark water. So you can tell the clarity of the water a lot of times in a general way just by looking off of Google. And then my next step, I apologize for this, I'm just using the Fish Online tool because I typically like to use Navionics for my charting and that when I go to scout things, but Navionics is on my phone, it's not on the computer, and I can only record from the computer. So Fish Online is a website available that has an option to get the lakes charted, but not the depths of the rivers. So I'm just basing this on what I'm seeing on the lakes. And what I'm looking for when I bring the charts out after I've looked at the lay of the land around there, and again, Zadie and Allen are very simple lakes here, but I'm looking for any basins, plateaus, any shelves around the lake that are providing fish something to relate to. Like right now, you can see that the Opasataca River runs in and enters in to what is basically a basin that flows through a pinch point to another little basin that goes into a channel through the pinch point that leads into Zadie Lake, which is essentially just a big flat basin. Zadie being the rockier of the two, but you can see the general layout by looking at a topographical map. And this is being this is in meters because it's a Canadian program. So if you're an American looking at this, just basically multiply it by 3, you got a general figure. So this is like on any given day, 5 to 7 feet of water in this main basin here. So you can see that Allen and Zadie, neither of these lakes are overly deep. So when you see that, if you're planning on just staying on one of those 2 lakes to fish and not going into the river, which does get considerably deeper, you're 20 to 30 feet in a lot of stretches on the river. But if you're just planning on fishing the lakes, knowing the depth is good because you can know what gear to take. You're obviously not taking like any sort of downrigger system with you. Like there's a bunch of equipment you're not going to need. So if you take a look at the nautical charts and depths, you're able to really isolate what you're going to be able to take before you go, in addition to seeing what is out there and what is on there. So again, I'm looking for basins and shelves. I see that there aren't that many on this lake, so that means that most likely all the other things I talked about are going to be more important, such as relating it to creek entries, natural structure, weed lines if you see it. That's going to be the important stuff to fishing this particular water body. And when you apply that, and when our guests have applied that, sure enough, they end up having some good success out on the water. But I highly recommend, especially coming up to Allen Lake, that depending on the year, you also fish the Opaz River. Now, just for guest knowledge, again, this drops down to 20, 30 feet deep in spots. It's a good river for trolling. This is again, the lake's up here, nice and shallow, excellent for well, you can troll some shallow water cranks and that to great success. In fact, we had a client that caught 3 40-plus inch pike on his first day staying with us, trolling shallow diving crankbaits in and around the mouth of Zadie. So again, why did he have success there? It's going through a pinch point near an island that was by that rock I showed you there, going into a drop-off point leading into a basin in an area that has a creek running into it, feeding it. So it has the area, they were catching a lot of those big fish, has a lot of those signs that I look for in a good fishing spot. And fortunately, the guest that did that also knew their stuff and knew what lure to use, the speed to use it, and absolutely everything. Just because the fish are there and you're in the right spot doesn't mean you're going to catch them. And for anyone to catch 3 40+ inch pike in one day on their first day on any river, not only did they scout it well, but they knew what the fish wanted to bite that day. And I'm hoping that if you're watching this, then you've got some ideas on what to use to make the fish bite when you come up here. And I'll also, in closing, zoom in and say that that is the camp on Allen Lake there. That is for rent that I have. You can check out footage of it on the playlist of Allen Lake and backcountry videos. You can also check out pricing and packages and all that at www.moosebasinvacations.com. And if you want to stay there, we got lots of different fishing options and packages that you can use if you stay there. I find this is an excellent lake and system for kayak fishing. It's a beautiful lake on a calm day. There's nothing better than getting on that lake on a calm day in a kayak and just petering around, catching big pike and catching a good belly full of walleye. It's a great way to spend a day up there. So I'm hoping now that if you've been considering renting it but not wanting to get a guide or anything, I'm hoping that this will teach you a little bit about scouting a new water body for your own personal gain whenever you want to go out fishing a new water body. And I'm also hoping that it gives you a little bit of information about what to expect if you're coming up and fishing Allen or Zadie Lake up here, and maybe it'll cut down on your strategizing and planning time when you come up and stay with us at Allen Lake, because I just showed you what everything looks like there. So again, I'm hoping you were able to get something out of this video. It's how I do it. Other people do different things. Again, this is just what you can do from sitting at home on the computer, but nothing, absolutely nothing will take the place from your first day on the water and scanning it with your sonar if you're in a boat and that. There's a lot more you can learn from actually being on the water and judging the water conditions and that, but I'm hoping that I was able to show you that there is a lot you can learn about a water body just by clicking on a few websites and going on a few mapping programs. You can actually learn quite a bit about what there is available in the lake for the fish to relate to at different times of the year, and you can get an idea to what species can be hanging out where by understanding how those different species like to relate to the different structures and different depths and that. And an experience is what's going to give any angler that knowledge. I just wanted to make this video to show you what I look for in the actual structure of the lake. I will be making more species specific videos and profiling more lakes and that as I go forward. Like, I'll probably end up doing a video explaining a little bit about how we target the pike and target the walleye on Allen and Zadie or on other areas that we go to, because I'd imagine there's a lot of Southerners looking at Allen's 80 and seeing that it's only 6 feet deep in its deepest spots, and they're shaking their heads going, yeah, there's probably no walleye in there. But there is. We have colder water up here. They relate to things differently, and we're hoping to be able to pass some of that knowledge on to you so you can have as much knowledge and as much of a good possibility of having an amazing fishing trip up in northeastern Ontario with us, preferably here at Moose Basin Vacations. So we hope you learned something, and we hope to see you up in the Kapuskasing area and landing hopefully your personal best at whatever species you want up here in northeastern Ontario with Moose Basin Vacations. Until we see you, tight lines, folks.